You're listening to episode 62. Welcome to Behind the Brand, a podcast dedicated to strategically building your online business. Here we go behind the scenes and share stories and strategies that can help you build your own dream business that supports your own dream life. I'm your host, Kelsey Kerslake, and I'm the CEO of pinegateroad, a branding and web design agency for online businesses and influencers. We create online presences that aren't just pretty, they're powerful. To learn more about working with pinegateroad, head to pinegateroad.com and schedule a free consult call. Now on to the show. Hello, you guys. Welcome to the show. I am pumped to have you here, as always. And today we have a really fun guest. Her name is also Kelsey, so of course she has to be fun. But her name is Kelsey Jorison. She is actually a farmer, and we met at entrepreneur camp this past summer, and I knew I just had to have her on the show to talk about this different kind of entrepreneurship. She also mixes farming with passive income streams. She has an e-commerce business that she runs with her fiance that they started that actually supported them in purchasing the farm and getting started with all of that. So she has a really unique journey to getting to farming, and what a fun passion. I know we're on the online entrepreneur space, and I feel like farming is sometimes things we just think of other people doing, but not necessarily one of our own or our own female online entrepreneurs. But she's also a farmer and a freaking green earth goddess. She has a big heart and mission for saving the earth and really doing what she can and inspiring the world to do what they can to really live in tandem with our planet. So she has a lot of great advice to share, and this is going to be a really fun episode if you're into sustainability, if you're wanting to live more in tandem with the earth, and if you're wanting to run a business that is building in sustainable practices in ways that maybe you weren't thinking. It's not just about recycling paper. There's so much more that goes into it. So she's giving some great advice for those of us running businesses who want to build some sustainable practices into it. All right, on to the show. Hello, Kelsey. How are you?
I'm good, Kelsey. How are you?
I am great. I love that we have the same name, first of all.
Yeah, we're named twinsies.
Yes. Okay, so I was just on a call with my account manager, Megan, who you know, and she was like, remember when we met Kelsey and we were all just in the middle of a lake on canoes, and that's how we became friends? And I was like, I forgot. But
it was so epic. It was absolutely epic.
It was. We just canoed. So we were at this entrepreneur camp for women, and we were just canoeing along, and we were like, let's go up to these people we haven't really met yet. And we just parked our canoes next to each other and then talked about all of our dreams in the middle of the lake. It was great.
It was great. It was a meet cute. We had our own little chick flick meet cute.
I love that. Okay, so I would love for you just to start off by introducing yourself, let the audience know a little bit about you and how you got to where you are today, but in a not crazy long version.
Okay, I'll try my best.
Okay.
So my name is Kelsey Jorison. I work as a farmer and educator. As a farmer, I provide pastured eggs and organically grown produce to my community here in Franklin, Wisconsin. And as an educator, I teach how we all can incorporate more sustainable choices into our everyday lives, how we can do better by the earth through those choices, and what it means to work in tandem with nature's strength. So I like to say, basically, I'm a cheerleader for Mother Nature.
I love that.
Yeah.
You are.
I am. As for my history, it's really eclectic. I did not grow up on a farm, but my two best friends had farms, one large and one small. Every other day after school was spent wrapping around their acreage, saying hello to cows, riding on horses. I fell in love with farm life at such an early age, Kelsey, but it took me almost 20 years to truly live that life. And those in-between years were spent falling in love with creativity and music, theater, photography. I went to DePaul University's theater school in Chicago, and I actually got my BFA in acting. Yeah, so random, right? I remember my sophomore year, there was a speaker that came into my acting class from this really high-profile Chicago theater. And she talked about how one of their creative directors that sat on the board of this major theater company works on an organic farm in upstate Minnesota and just weighs in creatively with the company when she has time. And I was like, oh my God, I
That's the
want
dream
that to be
life.
me. Yes, that is my dream life. And at the time, I was living in a 2-bedroom apartment in Lincoln Park where I literally could not see the horizon.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And I worked professionally as an actor for 7 years out of Chicago.
Wow. I didn't even know
I
that
did.
about you.
Yeah, yeah. I did 2 national tours for these amazing shows. I wrote and produced and directed 2 seasons of television with an amazing group of Chicago filmmakers. And all the while, I had supported myself financially as a photographer.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I bet you're wondering now, like how I wound up on a 5-acre farm in Wisconsin, right?
Well, you just kind of snuck in there. Like, I think I just talked over you as for a second. You're like, oh, by the way, I was doing all of this, but I actually supported myself with photography.
Yes, yes, I did support myself with photography. And I got my start as a headshot photographer because it just kind of went hand in hand with acting. I knew so many actors because I was an actor and I loved photographing people. And that's where the start of my photography business really came from. And
Awesome.
it grew from there. But I really like to credit the beginning of my journey to farm life to 2 particular books. The first is Julia Cameron's Artist's Way. Have you read that book?
I haven't, but I know everybody was talking about it at Camp Climb.
Yeah,
So,
it's an incredible book. This book was recommended to me back in 2012 by a headshot client, funnily enough. Yeah, it was a really low point in my life. I was going through a tough bout of homesickness because my family was over 7 hours away. I was working multiple jobs to make ends meet. I had been mugged for the third
ugh.
time. I had my heart broken, and I had just witnessed the death of a child in a really horrific accident. It
Mm.
was a really rough time, and I was not taking the time to heal from all these things. I was just plowing through, nose to the grindstone. And reading this book made me stop, slow down, and actually take the time to heal. I love this book because it functions like a 12-step program to get back in touch with your inner child and cultivate
Mm.
creativity in your life. And I needed that so desperately. So I just threw myself into the work. And one of the exercises that the author Julia Cameron has the reader do is write out these dream alternate lives for yourself. And something that kept coming up for me was how much I wanted this quiet, simple life surrounded by nature, a slow life, not the
Mm-hmm.
life that I was living, just bouncing around from city to city doing shows. So the other book that changed the course of my life is Michael Pollan's Omnivore's Dilemma, because this book was the first time I heard the name Joel Salatin. Do you know of Joel
No,
Salatin?
I don't.
Oh, I love Joel Salatin. So for those that don't know, Joel Salatin is one of the most famous farmers and thought leaders in the sustainable regenerative agriculture movement. He raises grass-fed beef and pastured poultry and pigs. And his thing is that we need to be farming in the way the animals evolved, meaning outside, on grass, in the
Mm.
sunshine. So after learning about the way that he farmed, I had to get my hands on all the books that he'd written. And I read all of them, of course. And then that turned into reading tons of these other books on regenerative farming. I was so hooked. I had always cared about the environment and animal welfare, but these books helped me understand more deeply how important it is that we farm in the way that nature intended. And I realized, like, when we work with nature's strengths instead of trying to conquer her or control her, humans, livestock, the planet, we all become healthier and stronger. So it's 2013 now, and my now fiance Paul and I had just started dating.
Mm-hmm.
And we collectively decided that we were done with the nomad life. We both like quit our jobs, moved in with his parents up in nowhere.
Was he also traveling for, was he in theater with you?
No, so Paul is an engineer and he had bounced around to the United Kingdom where he got a 3-year degree in motorcycle engineering. He then traveled the world just a little bit and then came back and lived in Milwaukee. And at the time I
Mm.
was in Chicago. And we have been friends for a very, very long time before we started dating. So when he finally made his way back to Milwaukee and I was in Chicago, we were like, oh yeah, I really like you. And we started dating.
Awesome.
Yeah. So he was tired, I was tired, and we both just wanted to change. So we moved in with his parents up in nowhere, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And launched an e-commerce business together. Yeah. Crazy, right?
Well, no, yeah, I kind of like want to. What gave you the courage to step into that new life? Because that's a big leap, I feel like.
I think that knowing how desperately I wanted to get to that quiet, simple life, this felt like it was a step in the direction of what that life was.
So you knew that
life...
was your vision and you were like,
yes.
Okay, I need to take a drastic step into
yes.
that vision. Yes. Okay. Love it.
Yeah.
I do a lot of like in pinegateroad in my own life and with like my mentees, like we're always doing visioning work and just trying to find like that big vision for your life or even the next place, the place that feels like you need to be in your heart and soul. And then it's just about taking that leap, like the first step that gets you there. And like that might be so scary, but it's so worth it. And my biggest one recently, I think if you've been listening to the show, is like my life going towards agency life too.
Yes.
And really stepping into like a program that was a lot of money that was really scary for me to step into, just not knowing if it was going to be worth it, you know?
Absolutely.
But knowing that was my next place and it's been so worth it.
Yeah. I feel like too, like the ability for it to change your life is equal in scale to the scariness of the decision. So the scarier the decision, I think the more married you become to really making that change for yourself. And us moving up north and launching an e-commerce business together put us on the path to having passive income and having more freedom in our lives to make these big decisions.
I love it.
And we were isolated. Sorry, go ahead.
How did you know, like, you're like, yep, and we just launched this e-commerce business. Like, can you go into like,
of course.
A little bit more about that.
Of course. So Paul is such an inspiration to me. He and I are both entrepreneurs, but he was always more financially savvy than me when we first started dating. And he handed me Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Workweek. And at first I was like, what is this cojones? Like, this is ridiculous. But the more that I read it, the more that I connected with it. And I realized that time did not necessarily have to be tied to money. And I could create something of value and that could make income for me in a sustainable way over time. So Paul, being the strategic genius that he is, he was like, listen, I know a lot about 2- and 4-stroke engine building because he's an engineer. And you are a photographer, videographer, like really great at marketing and copy. Let's join forces and build something together. So we have created a variety of resources for dirt bike riders to rebuild their own engines themselves in their own garages, saving them a lot of money in the long run when it comes to being a dirt bike rider, you know, having a dirt bike. So yeah, that's a little bit of our background to our e-commerce business.
I love it. And that's something you're still doing that's still helping you sustain what you're doing in your life now.
Yeah. I mean, we just had, I hope it's okay to talk about numbers, but
for sure.
We just had a $5,000 month and we literally haven't done anything. We that's literally haven't touched the business. So, and every month is better than the last. So we love it. And sometimes we'll check back in and be like, should we launch another product? Is it time? Does it feel right? And I think we're going to be launching another product for that business here in the winter time when things are a bit quieter for me because the farm is sleeping. The chickens are kind of, you know, on the back burner, and photography, it's my off season. So a little bit more time.
And I'm going to plug this prematurely, but please go follow Kelsey on Instagram because she has the best stories and she's just like hanging out with her chickens and doing her farming. And it's just like the coolest, most fun thing. It's like escapism for me because that is not my life whatsoever, but it's something I respect. Like I'm not probably going to go do that. I might have chickens one day. That seems kind of cool, but it's just fun to see like how you're integrating like all of these practices into your life and you share it too. So it's really cool. So if you've ever been interested in any of this kind of stuff, like please go follow Kelsey. She's so fun. to
Oh,
follow and learn from. So
thanks for the plug,
premature
Kelsey.
plug
I
because
love
it just
it.
had to be said.
Thank you. Well, back to Paul and I's little journey up
Yes.
north. We realized that there's no way that we were going to afford a mortgage or be able, I should say, to qualify for a mortgage unless Paul
Mm-hmm.
had a full-time job. So he got a job offer in Milwaukee for a startup, which he ended up taking the job, and it gave us the ability to qualify for a mortgage. And we started looking for our farm shortly after, and we've been here since 2016, and the rest is history.
Can we talk about the magic that like I think we talked about this on the canoe, but you're like, I just magically got this like piece of land with like this house and we're sustainably remodeling it and all of the things. Like I'd love to just have you share a little bit more about that journey
For
too.
sure. So we knew that acreage in this area of Milwaukee was few and far between, and we would have to make a sacrifice somewhere. Our list was pretty extensive. We wanted at least 5 acres. We wanted a workshop for Paul. We wanted good soil for me to farm. We wanted outbuildings so I could have chickens. And ultimately, the house was an afterthought.
Mm-hmm.
We saw this property the day it came on the market because I am a Zillow freak. Oh my God,
I'm
love
glad to
Zillow.
hear it worked out. I do Redfin, but the same
Okay.
thing. Like every couple hours, I'm just looking.
Yep,
Anyway,
I'm an addict. So we came and saw the property and we immediately fell in love. We actually saw it in the dark the first time too, because
ah,
daylight savings had hit. So
yeah.
someone took us around with a flashlight and was like, "This is the property." We're like,
You're like
"Yes."
sold. Can't even see it.
Oh, yes. And the house was definitely an afterthought. It's just a ranch style home. It was built in the 50s. There's nothing that's really up to code anymore. Like I can get frustrated sometimes about the lack of functionality of our home, but because it is a ranch, we can move walls and create our dream house basically from scratch. So that's kind of our next big project. We've got the farm up and running right now. We started officially early this year with a farm stand. So customers come and stop, they pick up
Aw.
eggs. It's all on the honesty system, and they drop their money into a little safety deposit box. And we sell all different types of stuff, not just eggs. I have a friend who makes organic handmade soap, and she sells that at the stand. It's just a cute little place to stop and see some
And it's just
chickens.
unmanned.
Yeah,
People, oh,
yeah,
does that work? I guess I
yeah,
just, cool. I
it
love
does.
hearing that.
Yeah. We trust people. We trust our community. And ultimately, if somebody's going to come steal $5 eggs, like, okay, you know, like,
They
all
must really
right,
need the eggs.
you must really need those pastured eggs, man. That's okay. Not condoning stealing from my farm stand in any way. But I think, too, people love to bring their kids because we're like, you know what, just run around. They can go back and see the chickens. It's not a big deal. We have some returning customers now that we just adore, and they're so supportive. But yeah, our journey here on the farm and living sustainably has been very organic. So,
I
uh,
love you so much.
coming in with the puns. Yeah, it's been a good journey. And I feel like we're still at the beginning. Like, arriving at what it means to live sustainably is not a reality. I think it's a constant reevaluation and discovery of what's best for the earth and trying to integrate those guideposts, those methodologies into your life in a way that's actually accessible.
Yeah. And you kind
Yeah,
of started with like the farming and did I know now you're into like everything.
yeah,
So did it like come gradually? Like I mean, one of your stories the other weeks was like you making your own like ground up makeup out of different
yes.
sustainable products, which just that gives you extent of the coolness that you'll find on her Instagram. So go follow her again. And you were like, here's my highlighter powder that I'm like make I don't even know what you're making it out of. But like were you into that kind of stuff before as well, or did that kind of come as you were living this new lifestyle and you just wanted to start integrating it into your home in more ways?
That's such a great question. I feel like I've always been such a bootstraps DIY kind of gal, but like the curiosity and the need to understand what was in my products came definitely from this lifestyle change, moving onto the farm and starting this homestead. I wanted to know, like, I wanted to vet. I wanted to understand what companies were best for the world and what products were best for my body. And from there, it really turned into looking at my life with fresh set of eyes and understanding what of my habits are good for the earth and my body and my community, and what habits are hurting those same areas. So it's been, I love learning. I think that is just like one of the things that has guided my life, is that learning is a constant for me. And I never feel like I fully become a professional at anything, because as soon as you arrive at that space, I think that boredom sets in. So I try to find ways that I can continually feel like I'm learning.
And you are. I love that, like, all the things that you're learning and then you therefore share, and
Yes.
it's so cool learning alongside of you.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have one question here. How can business owners start to think about sustainability in their businesses, even when it's not a core function of what they do? Because I think that in an essence, like, you've created a very sustainable business in the sense that, like, it's running itself and, like, you're living your peaceful life, but at the same time, it's all built on sustainability.
Yeah.
Is there a
absolutely.
way that, like, business owners can build more sustainable practices into their business?
Absolutely, there definitely is. I would love to talk about why it's so important to build those
Sure.
sustainable practices, and
Let's do
then
it.
jump into like an actual application of what that looks like, even if sustainability isn't a core function of your business.
Cool.
So I don't know if you read this, but the UN recently came out with the climate change report.
I, like, heard of it, but did not read it.
Yeah. So it basically says we should have started our path towards curbing climate change like 10 years ago. And the report estimates that we have until 2030 before we reach this point of no return with the amount of carbon in our atmosphere. And that translates to more extreme weather patterns like droughts, flooding, hurricanes, and consequently more displacement of the human population. I mean, Kelsey, we've all seen what the wildfires and the hurricanes have done to the US alone in the last 2 years. This is dire. I feel that we are really not that far away from 2030. We have
Not at all.
we have only one place to call home. There is no planet B. And if we don't take a step back and think critically about how our current lifestyles or business models are a part of the problem, we're going to reach that boiling point and we're going to seal that fate for future generations. But the bright side is that we as individuals have the power to shift this trajectory. If we start now, like right now, with analyzing how our everyday habits and purchasing decisions affect the earth, we can be a part of that positive change.
And that's what overwhelms me so much. Like, I don't feel like as an individual there's a lot that I can do, so then I just fall back on my habits.
That is such a valid feeling. Yes. So as consumers, Kelsey, we are driving the whole machine. Every single day we vote. We may not realize it, but we do. We vote with our dollar. I know I'm not the only one that's frustrated with the current political climate. I mean, I live in a district where my representatives literally don't even answer the phone anymore. And although they may not allow me to have a voice, I realize that I have a voice with where I spend my money every day. So I've taken it upon myself to suss out companies that are putting their most ethical, sustainable, and moral foot forward as they source, manufacture, and sell products. And something else that I love about the concept of sustainability is that it goes beyond our need for radical environmental change, but it also gives us the ability to bring human rights into the fold. Like, we can vote with our dollar and seek out businesses that not only utilize renewable energy, but also pay a living wage and offer paid paternal leave and maternal leave and practice fair trade. Every single day, you and me as consumers, Kelsey, we can vote for a better future. And ultimately, this is what my upcoming ebook, The Holistic Home, is all about. Cultivating large-scale change through small habits and sustainable practices in your own home, but more on that later. So on the flip side, I think that this is an incredible opportunity for businesses. As our consumer base becomes more educated and aware of what needs to be done to basically save the world, we have an entire market to capitalize on. And also help the earth in doing so. One of the best examples of this is having your company become B certified.
I was just going to ask about that because one of my favorite companies, Athleta, I like literally live in all of their clothes, is a B Corp now. And I was going to say, is that just like weird labeling? I don't really know much about it, or it's like a real legit thing.
It is a real legit thing. So B Corporation stands for Benefit Corporation. If you are a for-profit company, you can opt to get certified by this third party who will vet you from nose to tail for sustainable, ethical, and moral practices.
Cool.
And like you said, consumers are looking for this symbol now on products, myself included. And the B Corporation's hope is one day that this methodology, this value system for businesses will be the norm and not the exception. And I hope so too. One of their taglines, which I love, is we hope that companies will work towards not just being the best company in the world, but the best company for the world.
Yeah. Okay, so like a lot of our listeners are online entrepreneurs. We work on the internet, or that is like one of our main things. Like, what are some things that, I mean, just use my business as an example. Like, what are some things I can do as a business owner to make sure I'm building in more sustainability? Like, I'm thinking, like, I feel like I pay our girls and guys pretty well for what you know, they want and all that. Like, that's always been a big value, like people living their dream lives. And that goes for my team. That goes for the entrepreneurs we're working with through Pinegate. So that's just the one thing. But what else?
So I think that incorporating sustainability into your business, even if it's not a core function, is possible. I want to say too, before I launch into my answer to this question, is I'm not here to make you feel guilty. I'm not here to make business owners feel guilty.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Feeling like bad or like you're quote unquote not doing enough is so counterintuitive to what my big why is. Like, green guilt is real, and I think it has no place as we consider incorporating sustainability into our lives a bit more. And when you think about it, if you're feeling guilty, your willpower can't stay put while all this negative self-chatter is happening in your head, right? That's the exact opposite of what sustainability means. Yes, we have made choices as a culture out of convenience. And yes, our choices as business owners within an industry oftentimes stem from price point. But I argue that it's this way because it's what we've been taught to do. And I encourage us all to learn a different way together. So ultimately, I hope that what I'm saying empowers you to be a part of the change and not shame you for being a part of the problem.
And that's why I'm here asking all the questions, because I know nothing.
Yes. So, okay, back to your question. How can we get business owners to think more about sustainability, even if it isn't their core function? Mm-hmm. So I ask that you take one day, just one day, and do an audit of your business. And I have 4 questions for you to ask yourself. So first, where do the materials I need for my business to function come from? So AKA sourcing. This is everything from pens to paper to textiles to cleaning products for your company bathrooms. What I love about this question is that it speaks specifically to business relationships, so B2B. Ask yourself about the other businesses you are benefiting when you purchase materials from them. This is your chance as a business to vote with your dollar, much like a consumer would. Ask yourself how you can shift these relationships to purchase from businesses that are working towards a healthier earth. So if you're a product-based business, as an example, ask things like, what materials do you use for packaging? As a consumer, I will say I've come in contact with some wonderful businesses doing wonderful things, but then their product comes shrink wrapped in non-recyclable plastic and stuffed in non-compostable packing peanuts. It's really frustrating, Kelsey. So I just say, begin to explore what other earth-friendly options you have for packaging products, and then make it a selling point. And then the second question to ask is, how does your business affect those who come in contact with your business who are not customers? So I'm talking employees, like you mentioned, and employees of the businesses that you're doing business with. Do you offer solid, affordable health insurance? Is that possible for you? Do you give new mothers and fathers paternal leave paid? Do you practice fair trade? Do you have a healthy and supportive work environment for people of color, LGBTQ, and those struggling with mental health issues? These are just some of the examples. Like, I'm just spitballing. Are you sourcing the cotton t-shirts you use for screen printing your logo onto from a factory in Vietnam that has had multiple human rights violations? These are when answers get really tough. And sometimes you're not even able to answer the question because transparency doesn't exist in our product and manufacturing lines.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's just stuff I don't think about. So
right.
That's why I wanted you on the show, because I was like, you're going to challenge a lot of these just norms and habits that
For sure.
I know I have, and I'm guessing other people have as well.
Exactly. Again, don't expect to solve these problems in one day. Like the point
But
of
it's
this
even
one
like,
day.
yeah, opening yourself up to it.
Yeah.
I know nothing, so thank you.
Yeah, exactly. You're welcome. I just want people to become a little bit more aware and mindful of the effect that their business has on the human population beyond their customer base, and
Hmm.
empower you to make a positive change.
Yeah.
The third question that I want you to ask is, where does stuff go in your business when its use is done? So a few examples. Where does your product go when customers are done using it? Are your products or packaging landfill bound, aka non-recyclable? Can you shift that? Is it possible to shift that for your business? Does your office itself recycle paper waste? Do you compost food scraps from your lunches and your parties, from your lounge? Ultimately, how much of your stuff within the office and for your customers winds up in a landfill? And then the fourth question is, how can your business give back? I love the 1-for-1 programs like Tom's, or the 2% profit sharing to nonprofits like Plastic Free Oceans. Ask if your business can put front and center a philanthropic selling point that's not only going to make customers feel good for purchasing from you, but also benefit some of the organizations that do have sustainability as a core function. So again, these are just 4 questions to get you thinking. Please don't see them as reasons to feel guilty or bad about how you've operated your business thus far.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. And I love the list of 4 because it makes it really easy for us to go
Yeah.
through and do that evaluation. If you don't have that as an opt-in, you should. FYI.
Noted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Make sure your business is running sustainably. Here are the 4 things.
Yes, I love that. I'm totally going to do it now.
Good. Okay. So another thing, and we kind of talked about this. You kind of just went after this big dream. You had your aha moment, you had your low point, and you made big changes. And so I'd love to hear if you have any tips on going after your dreams, even when they seem wild or out of reach or any of that kind of stuff.
Just get out of your own way. I mean,
Yeah.
The life that you want for yourself is possible, but you have to willingly work through the mental roadblocks in order to get there. I think that there is so much self-sabotage when it comes to acting on your dreams. And the sooner you can identify those complexes or those limiting beliefs and work through them, the sooner your dreams will come true.
Mm-hmm.
And that looks like anything from seeking out therapy to really work through the tough stuff, or getting out into your community to find support from others that will want to help you reach your dream, like, Camp Climb, like the place that we met.
Yeah.
So I think ultimately you and only you are responsible for your happiness, and taking ownership of that and giving yourself the permission to live the life that you want is my main advice. And the other thing I would say is, only take advice from the people in your life that you would willingly switch places with. So,
I love that.
Yeah. If your unemployed, negative, lonely uncle tells you that your dream for a pop-up donut shop is stupid, please, dear God, do not listen to him. You don't want that miserable life that he's made for himself. So those would be my 2 big pieces.
I love that. And I kind of have some things to add. There's 2 things I usually go through when I'm I'm working towards this thing. I come across a lot of people who sometimes they're kind of stuck in that lower point where they just don't even know where they're heading. They don't have the big vision, and they're just kind of this would be nice, or this would be nice. So it's really doing that visioning work in order to figure out the life that you want to lead, and then figuring out what actions you can take now that will support you stepping towards that bigger vision or that lifestyle. And I know that sometimes people are I want to have this career, but if you think about the actual, what kind of a lifestyle do you want to lead? And I love that you were I want this slow life. I want to be one with nature. There's dozens of ways you could have done that. And you took one path towards that, but you figured out the big vision first. And then you started stepping towards it in a way that was accessible to you. And I think that people don't find the life that they want to lead and how that feels and what that kind of generally looks like. And they kind of just go for oh, what's the next promotion? Or what's that maybe natural next stepping stone? And then once you do find that vision and you're working towards it, another thing is really looking at the worst case scenarios. And I think that sometimes when you actually look at them and write them down, you're just like, that's really dumb. Like,
Yeah.
they're usually like not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when I don't even think I've like told Todd this, but Todd, my husband, when I was looking at like joining this program and he was like, that's a lot of money. And he was like, well, if this fails, like you might have to shut down Pinegate and then you'll just be like a stay-at-home mom. And I was like, that's literally the worst thing that you could think of for our lives. Like, I was like,
great.
I was like, great, I'm doing that. Like, and that is like, like that is like, that was like our circumstances. And like, we have a lot of like just our other things that are supporting that. But he was like, that's what's going to happen. Like if this all fails. And I'm like, okay, that's like, I have to go do this now. Like, yes. So, and I would have had like crazy fears, but if I actually I had that conversation with him and I wrote it down and actually realizing the fears that are holding you back and what that means for your life, like, are you willing to work through that worst case scenario? And most times it's like, yeah, that's not that bad. Right. Or like, even a lot of people are like, I'll have to go live with my parents. Like, great. That's probably not that bad. Like that.
I mean, we did it.
I know, exactly.
And it was just fine.
Exactly. And then you like figure yourself out from there. Yeah. But don't let that like quote unquote like worst case scenario hold you back from stepping into that dream life that you have. Because it's probably not as bad as you think. So
I wholeheartly agree.
Mine was really not bad at all. I was like, what in the world? Anyway. Okay. So I kind of skipped over this question and I feel like we kind of answered it, but can you tell us a little bit about your big why? Sure. And how this has kind of like led you to where you are. And I feel like we did get into it a little bit, but let's just go out there and state it.
Yeah, for sure. So when I look back on the last decade of my life, it may feel or seem like I've lived many lives, but I feel truly that one single purpose has steered my ship. And it's that my creativity heals myself and heals others. One of my favorite quotes that falls right in line with this big why is from farmer and writer Wendell Berry, where he says, "We have neglected the truth that a good farmer is a craftsman of the highest order, a kind of artist." And it's so true. I have learned that farming is not that far off from my life as a working artist. The love of creating something beautiful, having faith that the outcome will arrive, then rolling with the punches when it sometimes goes to absolute hell. This applies to farming. Taking care of the land and growing delicious, healthy food and nourishing my community, all of that's healing. And I think that it is certainly creative. So totally. Yeah. And then within the last 3 years, as I've stepped fully into this sustainable living thing, my purpose has crystallized into teaching others how to work in tandem with nature's strengths. So our health, our humanity, and the earth all benefit.
So can we talk about how you are helping people now? Because I know this has been a huge thing that you've been working on, and I'm so thrilled for you. So I just want you to like go all out, talk about it.
Okay. So yes, I am launching my first ebook, and it is called The Holistic Home. It launches on the pre-order launches on November 1st, and the ebook itself is officially published on November 23rd. And I am so, so excited to bring this resource to others. So the book takes you room by room in your own home, and it guides you through sustainable swaps and simple habit changes that you can make to give our planet a big hug. So it includes things like over 200 vetted product suggestions, from fair trade footwear to eco-friendly dishwasher soap. It has a bunch of simple, effective, toxin-free DIY recipes, like you mentioned, for makeup and for cleaning and other body care items. And some of my favorite. Oh, yeah. And I go into the like chemistry as to why these DIY products work. And I try to keep it as like chill as possible, but I am a biology nerd, fair warning. So some of the favorite things that I teach in the book are how to compost food scraps to reduce food waste, even if you don't have a backyard.
I was just
And
going to ask that. I was like, I have like a porch.
girl, you can still compost, and my book will teach you how.
Cool.
So yeah. And then one of the other things that it teaches that I love is why conventional skin and body care products are wreaking havoc on your health, and the non-toxic alternatives that you can swap them out for that are just as effective. And then two, I go into one of my favorite things is how to put together a capsule wardrobe that actually works and cuts down on closet clutter. Yeah, I just went through the exercise for myself a couple weeks ago, and it was so refreshing. Just felt like this huge weight was lifted off my shoulders when I
Which you
finally
also shared on your Instagram, and it was
yeah.
awesome.
Thank you.
I love following all these things, seriously. Okay. One of the things, like I had a conversation recently, and I feel like this is probably something that pops up a lot for you. People are like, oh, well, if I switch to sustainable / like organic, things are so much more expensive. Like, can you talk through the expense versus the outcome and how that probably isn't so much like that much more expensive in the long run?
Yeah, definitely. So I like to say we shouldn't ask why organic food is so expensive. We should ask why normal food is so cheap. And a large part of that has to do because we don't value the land that farmers farm on. And this goes back a long ways with the Homesteading Act. So many farmers got land given to them for free when they first started out. And we have not accounted for the financial cost of land when it comes to food and buying food in the grocery store. So I think that with food specifically, going beyond just not accounting for the cost of land for farmers, organic food is so much better for you. And it's like depositing money into your health bank account. By eating better today, you are saving money in the future by not having to pay crazy amounts of money for your health insurance because you have diabetes or you're dealing with cancer.
Totally. How about like beauty supplies and stuff though? Or not even just beauty, but I think somebody was saying like their shampoo. And I was like, yeah, this organic shampoo I buy is like $20 a bottle.
Yeah.
And you can buy like $1 bottles. I don't know. Just, do you have to buy the organic kind, or is what you're creating actually like a different, it's like you're DIYing it? I don't know.
So this is such a great question. There's two options for readers in my book. There's a spectrum, as I like to call it, the DIY / conscious consumer spectrum. So you can be on either side of the spectrum. Your spot on the spectrum can move over time. On the DIY end, you have less money, more time. And on the conscious consumer side of it, you have less time, more money. So if you just want to spend the money and get the great shampoo that's organic and great for your hair, great for the environment, you can recycle or compost the bottle, great. But if you want to save money and buy in bulk and make your own shit, you totally can on the DIY side of the spectrum. So I offer up two ways of going about living sustainably that can either be easy on your time and a little bit harder on your wallet, or a little bit easier on your wallet and take a little bit more time.
Yeah. And I feel like just even as I've been growing my business, the time has been more of the commodity. Yeah. So I've definitely switched from DIYing a lot of things and going into the what gets me more time in order to keep growing my business. And
that is different for every
it totally is. Yep. Which is what I wanted to like just chat with you about, because I hear the money thing from people. And I guess I've always grown up with like organic everything in a weird way. And my parents were very into that. My grandparents were that's the norm. So,
oh, you're so lucky.
I really am. Like my grandma started the co-op in our town to like bring organic foods there. It just was what we did. So the $20.
She's my hero.
It was really, really cool. And that was just like our normal stuff, which it was so weird growing up. Like we would go over to friends' houses, they would have Kraft mac and cheese, and I'm like, I eat this stuff that tastes terrible, because like, I mean, in a way the organic natural food stuff didn't really match what consumers were wanting or needing. They were just, doing it nicely, but as a kid you're like, this mac and cheese is gross.
Yep.
Anyway.
Yep.
Now it's like better just tasting and for the earth and world, all the things. So
yeah, I mean the organic sector is growing so quickly, and companies
like there isn't a difference.
Yeah, companies are starting to realize that. It's like I said, it's a great opportunity for businesses to get in as consumers become more educated and aware.
Yeah. Okay. So is there anything that you're really liking right now that you just want to spread the word about?
Yes. Oh my gosh. So I am obsessed with the double-edged stainless steel safety razor. I know it's super sexy. So
What? What is
I
this?
okay, so I recently swapped my plastic shaving razor
Mm-hmm.
for this double-edged stainless steel safety razor, and it's amazing. I was really, really nervous at first to use it but it's honestly just no different than a normal plastic razor. I love it because the zero waste shaving thing has been a sticking point for me. And I felt so much relief at finally finding a solution that was basically no different than the plastic alternative. So,
Hmm.
what I love about the stainless steel safety razor is that you can recycle the blades when you're done. And the handle and the entire construct of this object, right? It's all metal. So if you ever were to need to completely replace it, you could recycle it because it's stainless steel.
I love
And
that.
I mean, I've been using plastic razors ever since I needed to shave.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got into the zero waste sustainable living thing, it's like, okay, it's either laser hair removal, which I can't afford, or like sugar waxing, which terrifies me.
I was
So
looking up DIY sugar waxing things the other
yeah,
day. Like, it
oh my
actually looks
God.
pretty cool. I want to try it.
Yeah, well, more power to you, girl. I don't know. There's just something about that where I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if I could do it.
Really?
Yes.
I
So
feel like
I
that would
love,
be like the ultimate sustainable
yes,
way.
oh, it
'Cause it
is.
doesn't
Because,
even like take
yeah,
any manufacturing.
exactly. No, you hit it right on the nose. And I wholeheartedly agree. I went for the Merkur safety razor
Mm-hmm.
and I'm overjoyed. I feel like it helps
Good.
fulfill some like eco warriorness,
See, I'm just like, I hate even shaving, and this is maybe TMI, sorry,
No,
listeners,
go
but I
for
just
it.
like don't for like weeks, and then I'm just like, ugh. And whatever. And I probably just need the sugar wax because like I feel like
Yeah,
that's like as often as I'd like to shave, like that will happen. So
absolutely. You should keep me updated on how that goes for you. I'd be so curious.
yeah. I just also have not spent the time to like go make it happen. So I'm
Right. It's
currently
like
just
that
like,
DIY split, right?
right.
Time
I'm
and money.
very irregularly shaving.
So I would say if you don't go all in for the sugar waxing because of the DIY factor, the stainless steel double-edged safety razor is a perfect alternative.
Probably. Okay.
It's like
That's,
honestly no different than shaving with a normal razor.
yeah. I'll have to check it out. I love it. Okay. So, where is one link or place people can find out more about you?
So I'm going to send your listeners to www.greenwillowhomestead.com/books because
Yay.
that's where you can grab my ebook on pre-order. And I actually have a special discount code for your listeners.
Yay.
You guys can enter into the offer code box behind the brand, all lowercase, no spaces, and you'll get
Excellent.
15% off.
Thank you so much. I know I'm
Yes.
going to be going to get that because I want to learn about all of the
Oh,
things.
you're so sweet. Thank you, Kelsey.
All right. So, do you have any parting words of advice?
So this definitely touches back to your kind of your pain point about feeling overwhelmed. I do think it can feel really overwhelming when you look at the major environmental and ethical issues we're facing as a planet and feel like your part in fixing the problem is super insignificant. But I just want to tell you, Kelsey, that you matter and your purchasing decisions, they matter. And your efforts, whether it's refusing a plastic straw at a restaurant or trying composting for the first time, those things matter. And oftentimes actions speak louder than words. So, in leading by example with a small habit change, you may inadvertently inspire a ton of other people to try the same thing.
I love
So,
hearing that.
yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kelsey, for coming on the show. It was just so good to get to chat with you and learn about all of this because for me it's so new and it's
Yeah.
just so cool to have such like an earth mama warrior like to chat with.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I was so honored that you wanted to have me on the podcast.
Of course, I thought about it right away. All right, thank you, Kelsey.
Thanks, Kelsey.
Hey guys, I'm here to chat about an online system that I can't get enough of. I'm sure you hear from a lot of online business owners who've been scaling their businesses and about how having systems in place that work for them have been essential for their growth. Putting systems in place might be getting solid processes down, or it can be using a program like Seva to run your email marketing. When it comes to growing my business, the more intuitive something is, the better. Seva, which was formerly ConvertKit, is by far the most intuitive and easy to use program that I have ever used when it comes to growing your email list. They have easy pop-ups you can use on your website, forms that send out free downloads for content upgrades on your blog posts, and 24-hour help if you ever run into a snag. They have amazing customer service and have even helped us custom code some beautiful forms for our clients with no extra charge. I love that they're able to do that, and it's always so helpful. We use Seva here at pinegateroad and always recommend them to our clients. If you're saying yes, please, to an intuitive system for email marketing, head to pinegateroad.com/email to grab a free 30 days to start growing your email list and upping your marketing game. Thank you so much to our sponsors for making this show possible, and thanks to you for taking the time to spend some time with me here today. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor or catching up on past episodes, head to pinegateroad.com/podcast to learn more. Sending lots of love, and remember, you've got this. See you next week.